Today on Slant Daily Garage, the Edel-nator gets an upgrade. We're going to be changing out those. Yeah! We're going to be changing out the boosters. These are from AED. Yeah, they're great people. Go and see Jeff. Jeff's the guy. He's the man. These are 25 hole annual boosters. Whenever you get these, always get extra because you're going to mess them up. I'm telling you, I've done this 100 times. Luckily, on the Dominators, it's really simple. You pop this one out, you can press the new one in. It's easier than, say, like a 4150 style where you're going to need a tool. These ones are slotted, so they only go in literally one way. It's pretty simple. Make sure that that lines up. Sometimes you have to file the ends here, but we're going to see what we got. So next step on the Edel-nator is we took the bowls off. You don't need to see that. We're going to be pulling out these right here. One way to do it is I made a little mock-up here, is that you can take a self-tapping screw, put it in there, pull it out. Don't want to pry on this. Sometimes I've tapped these out on the Dominator. Sometimes it's easier to tap them. Put a puller in there, a hammer puller, and it just pops right out. You don't want to pry on this. And yep, and we're going to be pulling those out and putting these in. All right, next up. So pulling these out is really simple. You can make a homemade tool like I did here. You just get a pair of box, tubing, drill a 3/8 hole in it, put a little slot in it, and if you use this, if you have a Dominator, a 10 works perfect, fits right in there. Get yourself something for a slide hammer, washer, and a nut. You can do that, or you can tap it, either one. This is much faster. I like this. I've already taken one out. Comes out super simply, and that's how it comes out. So I'm going to pop these out, and so the tool just kind of goes on like so, like that, and then you just use your slide hammer and pop it out. It comes out really simply. All right, moving on. Oh, one more thing. Don't put this in too deep. Just give it a couple turns. That's all it needs. Otherwise, you'll see how long these things are. You go down too far, you'll be into this part of it, which you don't want to be, because this is the part that goes in there. So you really only need like a couple, maybe 2 turns. That way you're in there. So you'll see how far in I went on that thing. Just a couple turns, that's all it takes. Get a little bite and it comes right out. Here's a little tip when you're putting the boosters in. I've already put one in so you can kind of see how it goes. This is how it should line up when it's inside there. It should line up dead straight. What I tend to do is that, see how sometimes these will have little tiny nicks on them like that or whatnot, just on the outside for flashing. I clean them up. I have a little tiny file, and all I do is I just clean off all the high ends, clean off all the little burrs, so that way it slides in. You want to have a nice little tight fit at the end, and then by hand I put a little chamfer on the edge right there, just a tiny little chamfer. That's all I want to do. This is how they come from the factory, like that. Reason for that is so that way when you pin this in, it kind of guides it in. And obviously you want to measure these. Now, the reason why I'm changing these is that, this thing was made back in the 80s. I think this carburetor was, I forget what year it was made, but I looked it up. But see, some of them have porous casting on them, so you never know what you're going to get on these. And you can see how the boosters work right there. Basically, it's a low pressure zone. As the air comes down across that, it creates a low pressure zone there, and it pulls the fuel. Well, those are big holes, so it will, obviously fill that area as it goes across. On these ones here, the difference is that, I don't know if you can see in there because it's black on this, but it's got a little shelf inside there. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, there's a little shelf, and there's 25 holes on there. So instead of just creating a low pressure zone, as the air goes across, those holes are inset, and there's an edge right on that. It's hard to see, but there's an edge inside there. So that way you have smaller holes, more of them, so you have more area there, and that comes out in a finer mist. I'm going to be going to E85, so I obviously want to go to a finer mist. I'm going to run it like this with just changing these, and see what I get, since we know what the car runs already, and we'll compare it. But that's how we're going to do it, and then I'll show you how to stake these in and what we're going to change on here. Alrighty, moving on. As you can see, I got one in already. What I do to put these in, I was debating whether or not to show this or not, but what I do on these is because it's got a taper on it, I use this tool right here. I've had this tool for a very long time. And the reason why is because it fits right on the same curve as this. So when you put it on there, it fits, and that way it doesn't make a mark. You can see that it doesn't make a mark on there. I've tried to use square edges before where it would line up on the outside here, and if it twists at all, it would put a little chamfer on that edge. This one right here basically doesn't do that. And you're not putting these in very tight. It's just a tight, just a couple little hammers. It's a small, ball peen. And I'm going to go through and hammer these all in. But yeah, that's what I use, is that tool right there. Number is whatever that is. I can't see it through here. Wear safety goggles. That's not it. Right there. There it is. Mayhew 24003. Works beautiful. Works perfect. And this tool is only used for this. So that way there's no burrs on this. As you can see, they're all in. It's a really simple deal. Make sure they're all nice and tight. I do put, I used to put red Loctite, but I've kind of migrated to this orange Loctite. It works awesome. I just put a little dab on there. I didn't show that before, but there's a dab of orange Loctite on there. I do put a dab on this side and a dab on this side. When I put this in, then I hammer that in. That way it's not going anywhere. Yeah. And once again, these are like a press, you want to make sure when you put these down, they're not super tight. You don't want to hammer them, and you want to be able to put them in with your finger. Some of them, there was actually one, I believe it was this one, actually slid in. I tried it in a bunch of different areas, but it basically, it drops in and there was no press fit to it. So I put a little extra Loctite on it there and then hammered it in. So anyways, that's that. It's a really simple deal. And once again, special tool, only use it for this. I have a carburetor section that's just for carburetor stuff. And these are the guys. I've already mentioned them once. I'm going to plug them again because these guys are awesome. And so they're now part of the Edel-nator story. I'm not sure if this is going to make it on the very first video or if I'm going to make this a part 2. What I'm doing here is I'm actually drilling out the main well, and I'm increasing the size of that right there. I'm going to 180 thousandths on these. I had them at like 166. It's just going to help with fuel flow because this is going to be E85. So what I do is obviously custom tool, and these are 250 thousandths on this block that I'm using, this right here. So basically I just drill a tiny little hole, pull this out, and then I'll show you how I drill it out. Really simple. So on this one here, you can see that I've already drilled this one out. Haven't drilled this one. So what I do is I go in from this side first, drill into the well, then I drill from the well down, and I make sure that there's no flash hanging on that. And sometimes I'll stick it back in here and I'll stick it back in there. Then after you do that, you're going to want to go through and make sure that there's no flash hanging up on either one of these holes here that go through. So typically I'll chase those. On this one right here, the idle circuit is at the top on this one. So we're going to take this out too, because that connects here also. And we're going to blow out everything on this thing. And then we're going to take out these. Now when I go to E85, these are going to change here. This is when your power valve opens. I run a 2.5 on this one because I want it to open later. And how I have the timing set on this is that you'll see here that this opens up to that point. So I can drive around the pits basically on the primary before the secondary is open. And you can see in there that I do have 250 thousandths. No, sorry, that's a 125 hole for air bleed. So because it is a little big on that one. So that's what I'm doing on this, and we're going to go through. And then I ran out of these. They're 250,000, so I just got to find some more of those. But I'm going to get this thing all drilled up and ready to go. So when I convert to E85, it's 100% done. And if I mess it up, I can always call them up and get metering blocks. But I've done this a few times, and I'm pretty sure that this will work just fine for the Edel-nator. So yeah, this is what I'm doing. I'll put it all back together, clean it all out, and then we'll go from there. So there it is. It's all back together. There's some things I showed, some things I didn't show. So if you pick up on something and you see it not finished, there's a reason for that. I'm trying different things, and some work, some don't. So Anyways, here it is, all back together. Boosters are in, modifications done, plugs are in, and that's that. Till next time, peace.